Hi, everybody.
Hello, welcome to the show.
What's about? Who are you supposed to be?
Oh, I don't know. I just went to a parallel life there.
You sounded like one of those Jeff Rents or Art Bell or
Oh yeah, there's
somebody more professional. Oh, is this
Oh.
microphone working?
Is the microphone on?
Is it on?
Can you hear us?
Hello. Loud and clear.
Hey.
Hey, or Large Hadron Collider. I'm not sure which one. Right. We are. Oh, Mari's here. We always say your name wrong.
Hello.
Let's just put the record straight. I think Mari's kind to us because we call her Mari, but I think her name's Marie. But we call her Mari because it was spelt a bit different. We thought it was a bit different. So, sorry. So everybody else call her Marie because I think that's her actual name, but she's too polite to tell us. Am I right? Mari. Am I right, though? Yeah. Right, so I've had a bastard of a headache for 4 days because of sinuses. So most of the time I'm like that. It's not a Tampax. Funny jokes. So forgive me for not doing a news thing today, but I was really in pain looking at the internet, etc. With lots of drugs, it seems to be a little bit better. So we're going to do the quiz and Mark's talk, but not my news article this week. What do you mean, yay?
Mari says that
I thought you were
lovely
saying...
Liz is correct in your pronunciation.
Oh, so everybody else is wrong.
Do you mean we're correct in what we have been saying, or the correction?
Why are you making it complicated? Just because you're bloody academic.
Move along.
Trust an academic to make it more complicated. Am I right? Okay, guys. So we'll just say hello to everybody. Mari reminds me of a sea shanty.
Oh, I have to try and sing that later.
I will sing that later because my headache's a little bit better, so there won't be any stopping me.
Thanks, Murray.
Do you ever get like
we've
that?
got it right all these.
If you've been ill or you've got a headache, the second you're not, it's like you're born again. You've got a new lease of life.
Yeah.
Not really. So I'm not going to be doing the news bit, but there are a few. Don't start banging that bloody pen already.
Sorry.
It's like a nervous bloody
twitch.
Like
a punctuation of excitement.
It's a nervous twitch. But there has been a few things. You might want to go and have a little look at Richard D. Hall's site. I was going to read out the email he sent. So there's updates, and also the next one that he's doing, like the next court appearance, you can actually look at it on a Zoom meeting. So you can all join on a Zoom meeting. So might be worth going and have a little check of Richard D. Hall's website. Puff Daddy is the new Jeffrey Epstein. I was going to write about that, but I got a migraine. And worms at Chernobyl have got superpowers. So those were the things I was going to write about, but because of my headache, I didn't. So you just have to look it up yourselves. Trust me.
Come
a bit closer. I don't know if they can hear you.
Sorry, I was. Candice Owens does a good.
Candice Owens is my hero. She's so brilliant.
But yeah, good analysis of the P. Diddy,
Puff Daddy, Sean Comer, whatever his name is. Apparently, he's the new Epstein. The news aren't covering it. And I was going to do a little piece about it, but because of my headache, you're going to have to do it yourselves. So, should we just get straight in with the quiz?
Let's do it.
Because Mark's got another good talk for you later on, and we won't tell him what it's about.
Oh.
Not yet. Surprise.
Isn't it on the advert?
No, the advert just says live and let die. It doesn't actually say what it's about.
A bit mysterious.
Mysterious because it is mysterious.
Yeah, right. Yeah. True.
Right. All right, stop banging that bloody pen.
I banged my pen.
Have you got a nervous twitch or something?
Probably.
Right, let's just get on with it. Let's do...
You played your song too early.
Played your song too early. Right. Fingers on buzzers, please. Are you all okay to just start with the quiz now? Is everybody all right with that?
I think we've got quite a few people there, ready and waiting.
Let's go. Oh, Margaret might not be able to make it tonight. I can't say why. But, it'd be nice if she pops in, but she might not be able to make it tonight. Right, let's start with the quiz. Now, we've got quite a lot of learning on this quiz. I have given you a lot of information. I can't help
Linda's
it.
here.
Hi, Linda. I keep saying to Mark, right, I'm not going to do as much information on the quiz this time, but it's so interesting. I get stuck in. It takes me a week to write this bloody quiz, but I get learning. Everybody learned, Andy. Right, so let's start with number 1. Fingers on buzzers, please. And people with spanners, keep an eye on Mark, because sometimes you don't get it right. Oh.
Right.
Okay. Number 1 for the quiz. 40 Times is a British monthly magazine devoted to anomalous phenomena. That's easy for you to say. Anomalous.
That was the Muppets, wasn't it?
Anomalous. Who was the American writer and researcher interested in these subjects that the word Fortean was derived from? Was it Franklin W. Fort, Garrett Fort, Charles Hoy Fort? So Franklin W. Fort, Garrett Fort, Charles Hoy Fort. Where was the name for Fortean, the word Fortean, derived from? Oh. I feel like a cowboy with this. Let's get the cowboy hats.
Is it? Hey, are we got hats?
No, there's a reason for that. I'll tell you about it later. We've got cowboy hats, so get the cowboy hats.
Oh, right. Look, aren't they pirate hats?
Oh yeah, the pirate hats.
Well, you can have it anyway, don't you?
Well, not too, because I've got a bit of an headache. Where's the fluffy bit?
I don't think mine's around the right way.
It's fine. We used to dress up as pirates and go to Brixham Pirate Festival. It was bloody good too, weren't we?
Yeah. Oh, Christ.
Oh, Christ.
Oh.
I might take it off in a minute because of my headache.
Right.
But you don't know why we're not wearing tinfoil hats. I need to reveal that a bit later.
Oh.
Okay, so who was the first with Charles Hoy Fort, Mark? Make sure Spanish you keep an eye on Mark.
Well, DJ basically answered before almost you'd finished saying the first bit of the question.
He knows what he's talking
he was
about.
Straight in there. Everyone else got it right, but DJ was very quick off the mark and wins that.
Well done, DJ. So, Ben Hecht, an American screenwriter, director, producer, playwright, journalist, and novelist. He thinks his bloody body of himself. Who, in a review of Fort's The Book of the Damned, declared, "I am the first disciple of Charles Fort. Henceforth, I am a Fortean." So that's a bit of learning for you, isn't it? Well done, DJ.
Oh, so he was a screenwriter, director. So there we go. That's another dip.
It's supposed to be mysterious.
Yeah.
Right, number 2. Fingers on buzzers, please. Merkaba, Hebrew for chariot, refers to the throne of God, described in the book of Ezekiel, which is said to be a 4-wheeled chariot driven by 4 living creatures. Who popularized the idea of this particular biblical story being an early reference to alien beings visiting Earth in their craft? George Adamski, Eric von Daniken, Whitley Strieber, Colin Wilson. George Adamski, Eric von Daniken, Whitley Strieber, Colin Wilson. I took my hat off because I don't want another bloody migraine.
No.
Right. Has everybody had a go?
Well, there's certainly been a few answers gone down.
Yeah. Right, okay. So Johnny said, "I learned, Andy."
I know, yeah.
I love the way that's going to be our catchphrase.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, the person who popularized that particular biblical story being an early reference to alien beings visiting Earth in their craft was Eric von Daniken.
Chariot of the Gods.
Anybody get that right? Got that behind me?
Yeah, Mari did.
Well done, Mari or Marie. I'm going to call
we've settled.
I'm going to call you Susan.
All that we said. Right. Okay, we got it right, Mari. So anyway, yes, Mari, well done, got that one right. Ben said he had to say Colin Wilson because he was hospital porter.
Oh, Colin Wilson was a hospital porter. Pride and Dignity,
Stop
Brother,
the
New
World
World
Order.
Order.
Yeah.
Well, right. So this is an extract from the book of Ezekiel. I looked and I saw a windstorm coming out of the north, an immense cloud with flashing lightning and surrounded by brilliant light. The center of the fire looked like glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. In appearance, their form was human, but each of them had 4 faces and 4 wings. Eric Anton Paul von Daniken, born the 14th of April 1935, is a Swiss author of several books which make claims about extraterrestrial influences on early human culture, including the best-selling Chariot of the Gods, published in 1968. Von Daniken is one of the main figures responsible for popularizing the paleo contact and ancient astronauts hypotheses. Now, I know Ben agrees with me on this one because I listen to Ben 50,000 million times a day. And Von Daniken, brilliant, gets you really interested in it. It's absolutely great book, and he's got a bit of a point. But he kind of doesn't give human beings enough credit, you know. He kind of thinks that the aliens were the ones that gave us all the technology and all this, that, and the other. And there's an antediluvian situation going on that Andrew Collins talks about, which
Graham
is
Hancock.
and Graham Hancock, which is humans. So yes, of course, aliens are part of our history, but maybe Von Daniken is putting it all down to them when in fact we're not as thick as we like to make out, us humans.
No.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, probably a bit of the two, maybe, you know. But very interesting. Like you say, I remember reading Chariot of the Gods.
Yeah.
When I was young. As
oh my God!
I know Ben said that. He
I
did
think
as well.
it was the first proper alien book that got me into it, and it was bloody fascinating. And we've seen him live, didn't we, in Manchester?
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, we were different.
Nice chap.
Different awakenings in Manchester to the one
Ben's seen him at.
Ben met him at, but yeah, we also went.
Nice chap. Anyway.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay. Well done, Marie Susan. Number 3, fingers on buzzers, please. Who holds the record for the most honours, CBEs, OBEs, etc., declined? So basically, who has declined the most honours, like CBEs and OBEs, etc.? L.S. Lowry, artist. Kenneth Williams, actor and comedian. Nigella Lawson, chef. A.J.P. Taylor, historian. Who's declined the most OBEs, etc.? Lowry, the artist. Kenneth Williams, the actor and comedian. Nigella Lawson, the chef. Or A.J.P. Taylor, the historian?
Oh, is your Diego Rivera is in as well?
Right, has everybody got their info in? Mark, who was the first with the answer L.S. Lowry? And I think I can see who it was.
Yeah, Johnny.
Well done, Johnny.
Well done, Johnny. Yeah, he just beat Mari, and Linda got the right answer as well. But yeah,
well done,
Johnny
everybody.
first.
Well done, Johnny. So, L.S. Lowry, the artist. Remember that Matchstick Men and Matchstick Cats and Dogs song? Well, I found a Mandela effect with that song.
Yeah.
Apparently, it is now and has.
But maybe we should ask them as a tester.
I can't be bothered. I've got 16 bloody pages of this.
Yeah, but
Mark.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Who's doing the quiz and who does the talk?
Yeah, well, Ben's put in the chat. Send him a Matchstick Man and Matchstick Cats and Dogs. I heard you actually singing it, Ben, in one of your old videos that we heard recently. Matchstick.
I don't get involved in his bit, do I?
Matchstick Cats and Dogs.
But apparently it's match. Oh my God, I don't even know anymore. You ruined it.
No, carry on.
So obviously it was Matchstick Men's and Matchstick Cats and Dogs. Obviously, that otherwise it doesn't make sense. But apparently now it's Matchstalk, which is absolute nonsense.
Yeah.
So we discovered that Mandela
What's the
effect.
blooming Matchstalk?
Oh, fuck knows. We discovered that one, didn't we, Mark?
Yeah.
By ourselves. So a bit of learning. Now me and him have had our argument over for the night. I expect there'll be more. If you bloody keep interfering.
Murray's saying his painting's amazing.
Yeah, lovely, amazing.
Yeah.
So Lowry declined an OBE in 55, a CBE in 61, a knighthood in 68, and appointment as CH. I don't know what that means. I tried to look it up twice. In 72 and 76. He holds the record for the most honours declined.
Good on him.
Now, that doesn't mean that the other ones didn't do that, though. So, a bit about Lowry. Lawrence Stephen Lowry, 87 to 76, was an English artist. His drawings and paintings mainly depict Pendlebury, Greater Manchester, where he lived and worked for more than 40 years, as well as Salford and its vicinity. But the other people mentioned are also on the list of legends who declined a so-called British honour, such as a knighthood or other grade of honour. Kenneth Williams said, "When offered something which obviously isn't worth the price, we still have the right to say, no thanks." He also declined several awards. For example, Radio Personality of the Year Award in 68. And he said, "It gives me considerable satisfaction to turn down one of these spurious awards." Good for you, Kenneth Williams. A.J.P. Taylor, historian, said, "The establishment draws its recruits from outside as soon as they are ready to conform to its standards and become respectable. There is nothing more agreeable in life than to make peace with the establishment, and nothing so corrupting."
Well said, Mr. A.
But to be fair, what's her name? Nigella Lawson also turned one down, but didn't come out with any clever quotes. She made a cake, which I think personally is a lot more worthwhile to mankind.
Well, indeed.
But anyway.
So AJP was a sort of
one of us. One of us.
One of us, yeah. But so I was just thinking he was like an earlier version, if you like, Neil Oliver, because Neil Oliver, similar sort of thing. He was what you could say a sort of not establishment, but he did BBC stuff, history programs and that, and now obviously he is one of us. One of us.
Right, that's enough of that. Okay, question number 4. Fingers on buzzers, please. Which famous artifact is still missing in the absolutely disgusting ransacking of the Iraq Museum by American troops in 2003? So which famous artifact is still missing? 3,500-year-old Gilgamesh clay tablet, 2,000-year-old Baghdad battery, 4,400-year-old the Entemena statue, 4,400-year-old a lyre of Ur. That's like a harp. So which is still missing when the bastards went in and ransacked some of the most important artifacts on this planet? The Gilgamesh clay tablet, the Baghdad battery, the Entemena statue, or one of the lyres of Ur? Right, now I've just seen Ben's answer, and from my research, Ben, it is still missing. If you've got it in your bloody bedroom, then we need to know about it. So the answer I've gleaned from my bit of research is the one that is still missing is the Baghdad battery. But if you've got other information, you need to get in touch with the Iraqi embassy right now.
We've never got a battery when it runs out.
No. So, anyway, so we'll go with what I found out. And so the Baghdad battery, did anybody put that?
No. Sorry?
Nobody learned, Andy. Well, Ben kind of learned, but
you learned and went off at a tangent.
You went on a tangent. So
too much information.
A quote from the book. So there's a book called The Looting of the Iraq Museum, Baghdad, The Lost Legacy of Ancient Mesopotamia. So this is a quote from that book. In April of 2003, the world reacted in shock at the news of the looting of the Iraq Museum in Baghdad. Priceless antiquities spanning 10,000 years of human history were smashed into pieces or stolen. I actually got so fucking angry reading this. And one of the most important storehouses of ancient culture was forever compromised. The Associated Press reported, the famed Iraq National Museum, home of extraordinary Babylonian, Sumerian and Assyrian collections and rare Islamic texts, sat empty Saturday, except for shattered glass display cases and cracked pottery bowls that littered the floor. I can feel it now. I'm getting fuming again. The Baghdad Battery, also known as a Parthian Battery, is a curious artifact discovered near Baghdad, Iraq. There are approximately a dozen of these artifacts, and their purpose is a matter of controversy. However, the most prominent theory regarding their purpose is quite astounding. It has been suggested that the Baghdad Battery is an ancient battery. If it is, in fact, a battery, it would mean that batteries were invented roughly 2,000 years before Italian physicist Alessandro Volta's battery in 1800. No one knows where it is now except for Ben. Unfortunately, during the United States invasion of Iraq in April 2003, the Iraq Museum was utterly ransacked. Somewhere between 17,000 plus ancient artifacts in the museum's collection. About half of the museum's total collection was stolen, including the original so-called Baghdad Battery. Eventually, after years of searching, thousands of artifacts were eventually recovered and returned to the Iraq Museum. The Baghdad Battery, however, was not one of them. Now, this is a little bit of information about the other really important things that... So the other things were stolen but returned. So the lyres of Ur, or harps of Ur, is a group of 4 string instruments which are nearly 5,000 years old. Gold and silver sheeting and precious stones were ripped off one of the lyres, and its broken wooden frame was dumped in the car park. It has now been recreated with new stones and wood by experts in the UK. So the Gilgamesh Dream Tablet is one of the world's oldest surviving works of literature and one of the oldest religious texts. The tablet was looted from an Iraqi museum during the 1991 Gulf War. Officials believe it was illegally imported into the United States in 2003, then sold to Hobby Lobby, and eventually put on display in its Museum of the Bible in Washington. Federal agents with Homeland Security investigations seized the tablet from the museum in September 2019. It was returned to Iraq in 2021. The Entemena statue, one of the most valuable artifacts looted, was a headless stone statue of the Sumerian king Entemena of Lagash. The Entemena statue, estimated to be 4,400 years, has a long inscription on the back dedicated to Enlil. The Entemena statue was on the FBI's list of top 10 most wanted stolen works of art in the world. It was eventually found in New York and returned in 2010. Now get this. Defense Secretary for the Bush administration, Donald Rumsfeld, said about the looting of the museum, stuff happens.
Wow.
I literally got so angry.
Well, that's all right then. If you said stuff happens, that makes it all right.
It's all right.
Yeah.
So that made me fuming. But yeah, bastards.
Scum.
Assholes. Yeah. Anyway, I get cross about things like that.
No, me too. And no.
I go round the bloody British Museum apologising to all the bloody don't I?
You did,
I gave those bloody statues of the mummies and sarcophagi. I was giving things cuddles and apologising and nearly in tears, saying, I'm sorry. If it's up to me, you'd be back home, mate. I get real fucking visceral feelings about this. Anyway, who won that one? Nobody learned, Andy. Nobody learned. They bloody have now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so that's a bit of learning for you, isn't it, everybody?
Lots of learning, yeah.
Right, question 5. Fingers on buzzers, please. The first condemnation of tarot was based on the card's ties to what? The first condemnation of tarot was based on the card's ties to what? Gambling, occultism, drinking, divination. Oh, I've lost it. Gambling. Wait a minute. I've lost it. Gambling, occultism, drinking, divination. Gambling, occultism, drinking, divination. Oh, that wasn't a very long one. We'll just let everybody have a little go. I think Israel's saying the whole lot. Good thinking.
Well, that's one way to do it.
Right. Who came up with gambling first, Mark?
I'd say that was Johnny Gamb.
Well done, Johnny. He's learning.
Practicing, yeah, the old abbreviations there.
Black helicopter.
Oh.
Can you hear that? We get so much of that shit over here, don't we? There's a helicopter. Oh, it gives me the creeps. So the answer was gambling. So, although a Dominican preacher disapproved of the evil inherent in playing cards, chiefly because of their use in gambling, in a sermon in the 15th century, there was not much condemnation of tarot during its early history. So he was just basically pissed off because of the gambling part of it, which is surprising, isn't it? Yeah. Who got that? Johnny. Well done, Johnny.
Johnny.
Right. You'll like this one, Ben. The following is taken from Wales.com. As recounted in Geoffrey of Monmouth's 12th century text, Historia Regum Britanniae, but I can't say this, Vortigern was a Celtic king searching for somewhere to build a castle. Eventually, finding a spot he liked on the hillside of Dinas Emrys, sorry, Ben, the problem was that the castle's foundation kept falling down. Who told Vortigern the reason his castle would not stand is because the site was located directly above an underground lake where 2 dragons lay sleeping. So who told the king why his castle wouldn't stand up? Merlin, King Arthur, Morgana Pendragon, Queen Guinevere. Who told the king why that there was dragons under there? Merlin, King Arthur, Morgana Pendragon, Queen Guinevere. Okay, everybody had a go?
Well, there's certainly a few answers down there.
Who was the first one to put Merlin?
Well, we got a few with that right answer, but Diego Rivera was the first.
Well done, Diego Rivera. So it was Merlin the Magician. So like I say, this is from the website Wales.com. Upon digging the ground, Vortigern's men found the lake, as well as 2 dragons, one red, one white, who promptly woke from their long sleep and began a ferocious battle. Although the white dragon was dominant for most of the scuffle, the red dragon ultimately won the fight. The young Merlin told Vortigern the red dragon represented his people, native Britons, in their upcoming battles against the invading Saxon armies, who would become the Anglo-Saxons. While the origin story might sound like myth and mystery, an excavation of Dinas Emrys in 1945 showed evidence of a lake and a fortress dating back to Vortigern's time.
That's interesting. It's interesting they did it in 1945 as well. I mean, it's like just the end of the Second World War. You think, blooming hell, they're excavating. What's all that about?
What is it all about? Yeah. What is that all about? Right. Who won that one? Israel.
Yep.
Well done, Israel.
Yep.
Right. Number 7. Fingers on buzzers, please. What is the slang term used by British intelligence for a spy? A bird watcher, a flycatcher, dog trainer, mousetrap. Slang term, by British intelligence for a spy. Bird watcher, fly catcher, dog trainer, mousetrap. Right, has everybody had a go?
We've had a few goes, yeah.
The answer, what is a slang term used by British intelligence for a spy, is a bird watcher. Anybody got that? Nobody learned, Andy. Interesting. So it is a bird watcher. So some other spy terms, which I thought were quite interesting. Raven is a male agent employed to seduce people for intelligent purposes. A shoe is a false passport or visa. And Ben, hospital is Russian slang for hospital. So brilliant. They don't quite get it, do they, them Russians? We think they're all that. They don't quite get it, do they?
Maybe they say it in Russian.
Hospital. I think that was Polish. That sounded like Pav, the man that does our bathroom. Yeah. Right.
I've just realised I've done weird capitals in the middle of your name there, Marie. I'm sorry about that in the chat. What? I just hit the wrong...
Marie! Just as we were starting to say it right.
Yeah. Oh, dear.
Right. Number 8. How do I say that word? I don't know.
Aleteia.
ALETEIA.org. This is from thatword.org. I don't know how to say it. Throughout the Bible, there is frequent condemnation of witchcraft, usually referring to divination or calling up the souls of the dead, as it is an activity that opposes God and may include the worship of demonic spirits. In the Old Testament, King Hu falls into despair after seeing the strength of the Philistine army and feels helpless. He wants God to speak to him, but God is silent. Not satisfied with God's silence, he takes matters into his own hands and summons the Witch of Endor. Which king summons the Witch of Endor? Is it King Saul, King David, King Solomon? King Saul, King David, King Solomon summoned up the Witch of Endor. Everybody had a go?
Well, there's been quite a few goes. Yeah.
Right. Did anybody put King Saul, Mark? Nobody learned, Andy. What are you like? Oh, hold on. Johnny just put so.
Oh.
Ben's falling asleep?
Well,
Ben, this is 2 weeks in a row.
It's not a conference, Ben.
What's going on? You're supposed to be the spanner. What if somebody comes in and starts attacking us?
Oh, he's put a spanner in the works. Oh, well, it's Johnny. Johnny just got in there.
Do you think Johnny got in there?
Well,
Johnny got in there.
I think, he's an honest man.
He is an honest man.
And sometimes he's internet buffers.
I think we give that to Johnny. Johnny's an honest man.
Johnny is rolling on.
Johnny is an honest man.
He is. That could be a song.
Yeah, it could. So, when Saul saw the Philistine camp, he grew afraid and lost heart completely. He consulted the Lord, but the Lord gave no answer, neither in dreams, nor by Urim, nor through prophets. Urim, I had to look that up. It's Urim and Thurim. It's different stones or something, and they throw them. I don't know. Then Saul said to his servants, "Find me a medium through whom I can seek counsel." His servants answered him, "There is a woman in Endor who is a medium." God, I give you a lot of information about this one. I can't bother to read all that. But basically, he summoned this witch of Endor and then died because he was unfaithful. So next.
He should have learned.
He didn't learn.
Didn't learn.
Well done, Johnny. Right, number 9.
Ben said, "What an Ewok."
Ben, go and wake yourself up or sum up.
He's drunk, mind.
Who says that?
Ben said he's drunk.
Ben's having a drink on a Saturday night.
I'm not castigating the man. I like a drink myself.
Give Ben a bloody drink if he wants one.
I can't give him a drink. He's miles away.
Right, number 9. Fingers on buzzers, please. Which mammal sleeps with one eye open? I think it's Ben at this point. Platypus, dolphin, hippo, muskrat. Mammal sleeps with one eye open. Platypus, dolphin, hippo, muskrat. Cheers, Ben. Have one on us.
Yeah, enjoy, my friend.
Have it. You deserve it. Okay, who put dolphin, Mark?
I believe the wonderful green tea was first.
Oh, I didn't even know green tea was here.
Oh yeah, she made a belated entrance.
Well, you didn't tell me.
Well, you would, you
didn't tell me
if
nothing.
I'd interrupted you, you would have told me off.
I would have done. That is
can't bloody women.
Not a lie.
Can't bloody
women. Well done, green tea. So
yeah, brilliant.
Dolphins are known to be one of the smartest animals on the planet, possibly because they can conserve their brain power. Since they must always be on the lookout for predators, the marine mammals have developed a neat trick of maintaining partial consciousness even as part of their brain sleeps. Researchers have tested whether this half sleep negatively impacts the animal's alertness during the day, but have found that even after 5 days of having their nocturnal alertness constantly tested, they've remained as alert and perceptive as ever. Well done, green tea.
Yep.
Right, number 10. Fingers on buzzers, please. Halfway there. Hannah Courtoy, Courtoy, 1784 to 1849, born Hannah Peters, was a London society woman who inherited a fortune from the merchant John Courtoy in 1815. Her distinctive Egyptian-style mausoleum in London's Brompton Cemetery has been the subject of considerable curiosity and speculation ever since a report by Reuters in 1998 repeated claims that it contained a what? So this high society woman, she's buried in an Egyptian-style mausoleum in Brompton Cemetery, London. And what are Reuters saying that it contains, this mausoleum? An authentic Egyptian mummy, a working time machine, authentic relic pertaining to Mary Magdalene, or a captured alien body. So Egyptian mummy, working time machine, a relic pertaining to Mary Magdalene, or an alien body. What's in there? What's in there, Mark?
I don't blooming know.
Bloody in there.
Well, I do know because I just read the answer. But,
Ben's put zombie.
Yeah.
Right, we'll wait for everybody to have a little go. So, mummy, time machine, Mary Magdalene, alien body. Has everybody had a go?
Yeah, well, there's lots of goes being had.
Did anybody put a working time machine, Mark?
DJ did.
Well done, DJ.
Yeah.
Ben, we're going to have to go and have a look at that.
Yeah.
London's Brompton Cemetery is the final resting place of Hannah Courtoy, who had a well-known respect for ancient Egyptians' astrological and perhaps mystical knowledge. She's buried there along with 2 of her daughters in a massive 20-foot granite mausoleum that includes a pyramid peak and a bronze door decorated with Egyptian hieroglyphs. The entryway also features a keyhole, but the key that unlocks it was lost, which, along with Courtoy's history, sparked the tomb's peculiar reputation. Because no one can get inside to confirm or deny suspicion, a local legend says it isn't a tomb at all, but a time machine. However, historian Stephen Coates told Mental Floss, "Don't be stupid, it's not a time machine. It's a teleportation chamber.
Da, da, da. Blimey.
So, who got that one?
It was DJ.
Well done, DJ. So that's interesting, isn't it?
I always think we're going to break into a song then, because it was like, "You're gonna rock, DJ," or something like, you know, something like that. But
I'm going in with nonsense when you do your bit. I absolutely am.
It might. Well, we will do that because it might break the monotony for the people listening.
Yeah, that's true. Me included.
May wake them up. Yeah.
Right, number 11. Which sport sometimes asks its athletes to make babies cry for good luck? Table tennis, sumo wrestling, Muay Thai boxing, archery. Which sport sometimes asks its athletes to make babies cry for good luck? Table tennis, sumo wrestling, Muay Thai boxing, archery.
I'm going to keep rocking there.
You're not
Linda.
rocking.
Mark,
Don't
rocking
encourage him.
chair.
Don't stop rocking. I'll push you off that bloody chair in a minute. It's a bloody sick world this we live in. Right. Who was the first one to write sumo wrestling, Mark, or just sumo?
DJ again. I won't break out into song.
No,
DJ.
you won't.
No.
So, there is a 400-year-old Japanese tradition that states if a sumo wrestler can make your baby cry, it means he or she will live a healthy life. During a special ceremony, parents hand over their infants to sumo wrestlers who bounce their precious tots up and down and sometimes even roar in their little faces to get the tears flowing. A mother said at a 2014 event, "He's not a baby that cries much, but today he cried a lot for us, and we are very happy about it."
Weirdos.
Get the bloody social services in, if you ask me.
Bloody
hell.
hell.
Right. Well done. Was that DJ?
Yeah.
Right. Number
DJ
12.
Well.
Oh, you don't get no clues for this one. You've just got to use your little brains. Complete the following quote by George Orwell in 1984. No clues for this one. You either know it or you don't know it. And if you don't, I'm judging you highly. War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is what? War is peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is what? Okay. Did anybody put strength, Mark Froud?
The wonderful Mari got strength.
Well done, Mari. So war is
done.
Peace. Freedom is slavery. Ignorance is strength. That was at the last party political podcast by the Twat Party, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So well done, Mari. And there's no clues for this one either.
Wow, we're playing hardball now.
Playing hardball.
Yeah.
It won't last, don't worry. Ready? Fingers on buzzers, please. There's no clues for this one. What is the fourth state of matter? The other three being solid, liquid, and gas. What is the fourth state of matter? I have a different tune today. Oh. Don't know why I bother. Brilliant. Did anybody put plasma, Mark?
Well, there were many answers.
Johnny put plaster.
Same thing, and same difference.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, Green Tea got it, Mari got it, but the first was DJ.
Well done, DJ. God, he knows his onions.
He does indeed.
And his plasma.
Brilliant, yeah.
We're getting really into this. Plasma is one of our 4 fundamental states of matter, the other being solid, liquid, and gas, characterized by the presence of a significant portion of charged particles in any combination of ions or electrons. The least well-known state of matter is, paradoxically, also the most prevalent. 99.99% of the visible universe, including stars and intergalactic matter, is in a state of plasma. Now, go and listen to Jay Widener's latest video on reality checks entitled, "Are the Elohim Actually Plasma Beings?" It's fascinating. It meant, well, we ended up spending 40 quid on books. Mm-hmm. He speaks about 2 books. He speaks about the Naked Bible, which you might have already heard of. We were a bit late to the party with this one, by Mauro Biglino, and A New Science of Heaven. Oh, if you've got him over there, babe, he's going to go and get him. A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple, which we've got and we intend on looking at avidly. Seriously, go and look at Jay Widener's latest video if you haven't already, entitled, "Are the Elohim Actually Plasma Beings?" And literally, I ran in the front room and told Mark to get his wallet out.
He gives a mention to our friend Nick Hayes.
Oh, yeah, he talks about our friend Nick Hayes. Because Ben's fallen off the bloody planet, I think. Hold on.
He's in the plasma.
Oh, it's difficult to do this. A New Science of Heaven by Robert Temple. Groundbreaking, apparently.
Mari says Mauro Biglino, woohoo. So she's
and this guy, the Naked Bible.
Yeah, Green Tea says Biglino's videos all have subtitles now, so that.
Well, plasma, everybody. Is that what the Elohim are actually made of? Interesting, very interesting.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Indeed.
Who got that one in? They all did, I think.
Yeah, but DJ was first.
Well done, DJ. Oh, now, where's Ben? He needs to be listening to this one. I think he's fallen off his chair. Now, we're not wearing tinfoil hats tonight, Mark, and you don't know why, do you?
I don't know why, Liz.
He doesn't. He genuinely doesn't, because I forgot to tell him. But you're about to learn something yourself, Mark. No?
I'm excited. I learned many things.
Learning. Okay, that's what it's all about. What is the true origin of the tinfoil hat?
Oh, yeah.
Is it a book written by Julian Huxley, the film Signs, an article written in The New Scientist, or a CIA smear campaign? Where did tinfoil hat come from? A book written by Julian Huxley, the film Signs, an article written in The New Scientist, or a CIA smear campaign? Right. Anybody down there? Right. Julian Huxley, Mark Froud.
Yes, Julian Huxley indeed. And that was DJ again.
Yeah, but more importantly, Green Tea is scratching her dog's tummy to the music and he starts crying when she stops. I'm sorry, but that is just more important. Okay, sorry, who won?
I was saying, so do I.
Hey?
DJ.
Well done, DJ.
Yeah.
You're on fire.
He is indeed. Just beat Mari to it.
Well
I think
done, you guys.
But,
so, now, this one's a bit depressing, / intriguing, / funny, / terrifying. So, I looked up where the term tinfoil hat comes from. While actually wearing it, I was actually wearing one that day. I was feeling a bit paranoid. I was actually wearing a tinfoil hat. So I went, why am I doing this? And found this on businessinsider.com. The true origin of the tinfoil hat and why it's the stupidest thing to wear if you're paranoid about the government. Written by Michael B. Kelly in 2013. The recent revelations that the NSA has been collecting the detailed phone records of Americans since 2001 has a lot of citizens saying that claims of the NSA operating a vast domestic dragnet have been vindicated. Others think the news led the tinfoil hat types to come out in spades. Saying someone is wearing a tinfoil hat or is in a tinfoil hat means that they have paranoia or a belief in conspiracy theories, especially involving government surveillance or paranormal beings. Originally, the term referred to the practice of wearing headgear consisting of metal foil to block mind reading. Julian Huxley, brother of Brave New World author Aldous Huxley, coined the concept in his 1927 work, The Tissue Culture King. So this is a quote from that book. Well, we had discovered that metal was relatively impervious to the telepathic effect and had prepared for ourselves a sort of tin pulpit behind which we could stand while conducting experiments. This, combined with caps of metal foil, enormously reduced the effects on ourselves. Unfortunately for contemporary tinfoil hat wearers, a 2005 study by MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, found that the metal hats actually amplify certain radio frequencies instead of blocking them. I know, right? Huxley's. From the study, it says emphasis R's, so obviously business, whatever it was, .com added emphasis to this study. It has long been suspected that the government has been using satellites to read and control the minds of certain citizens. The use of aluminium helmets has been a common guerrilla tactic against the government's invasive tactics. Surprisingly, these helmets can in fact help the government spy on citizens by amplifying certain key frequency ranges reserved for government use. The findings led the authors to speculate that the government may in fact have started the helmet craze for this reason. Now that's a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. So I couldn't bloody well, I had my hat on, I took it off, I had it on, I took it off. So I went and had a little look and I got as far as Wikipedia. Vice magazine wrote that the tinfoil hat in popular culture can be traced back in a very weird and prescient short story written in 1927 by Julian Huxley, titled The Tissue Culture King. We'll have to get that, Mark. Wherein the main character uses a metal hat to prevent being mind controlled by the villain scientist. Over time, the term tinfoil hat has become associated with paranoia and conspiracy theories. So this is a bit about the book. The Tissue Culture King, 1926, in Cornhill Magazine and in the Yale Review, reprinted 1927 in Amazing Stories and many times afterwards, is a science fiction short story by biologist Julian Huxley. Biologist / eugenicist, you name it. The story tells of a biologist captured by an African tribe. It incorporates the idea of immortality based on reproduction from a tissue culture and genetic engineering, and an early mention of tinfoil hats and their supposed anti-telepathic properties. So I'm terrified. Hi, Hugo.
Hi, Hugo.
So that I haven't finished.
Oh, you haven't finished, mate?
No, I went down a right old tinfoil hat rabbit hole with this because I literally had it on my head as I was typing this. So that got me onto Reddit. So once you've been on there, so I was on Reddit 48 hours later, I emerged confused, headachy and hungry. So a few comments on Reddit said, a group of MIT students found that tinfoil hats do shield their wearers from radio waves over most of the tested spectrum, but amplified certain frequencies around 2.6 gigahertz and 1.2 gigahertz. Is that gigahertz? GHz?
I believe so.
Another Reddit said, tin interferes with cell signal too. It's aluminium, it's not tin these days. Obviously, since it's EM radiation. Noticed it years ago when my parents got a tin roof. I used to get 5 bars, but after the new roof, it was down to 2 or 3. Even more noticeable, in the old barn, which is completely enclosed in tin siding barring the doors, 0 signal, in that thing. So to conclude, fuck knows. Absolutely fuck knows.
Thanks for your research.
Yeah. So the conclusion,
fuck knows.
No idea. But I ain't fucking wearing it.
Johnny was saying he didn't think they had tinfoil in 1927. So it was aluminium. Well, when did it start?
Don't fucking ask me.
Oh, I don't know. All right. Well, this is something we have to research in your own time, Johnny. But it's an interesting point. Yeah.
I've got no idea, mate.
Wouldn't surprise me if they started the whole process.
I've got absolutely no idea. Yeah. So, I'm confused. It doesn't take much. But I thought that was quite interesting because we wear all this.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I kind of, what is it? Own it. I kind of own it. People take the piss out of us for being who we are. I own the term conspiracy theorist. I also own the term tinfoil hat because it takes the power out of it. And but now I'm terrified.
So
we are tinfoil hat news.
Green Tea says metal roofing is becoming very popular in the Midwest US.
Very and blue roofs. I've been reading a lot about people painting their houses, their roofs blue. I read why, completely forgot.
Oh. Well,
so, and then couldn't be bothered to look it up again. But painting their roofs blue.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on, everybody.
Cooking for research coming, as Mari says.
Yeah.
Space beams, DJ says.
Space beams.
Just keep them out or to attract them?
Oh. Let's get on with
Anyway, we'll get on with it.
15. Osiris is best known as the Egyptian god of the underworld. What colour skin was the ruler of the dead always portrayed as having? Gold, white, blue, green. Osiris. Or black. Sorry, I didn't read that bit. Osiris. What skin colour portrayed as? Gold, white, blue, black, green. Gold, white, blue, black, green. Osiris. I reckon Ben's fallen a bloody sleep.
I think he might have done.
Wakey, wakey! He's missed some interesting bloody stuff there.
Oh, Green Tea was saying blue didn't burn in Hawaii.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so did anybody put Osiris, best known as the Egyptian god of the underworld, green? Did anybody put green?
Yeah, a few did. Johnny did guess green, Hugo green, but Mari was first with green.
So this is taken from mythnerd.com. Osiris was green because of the aspects of the world he controlled as the god of agriculture and resurrection. Green symbolized fertility to the Egyptians, so it made sense to them that a god who was buried and grew again from the earth would also be green. This was taken from chemitology.com. Osiris, Osir or Wizard, is the original green man. I was delighted to hear this. He is the land and the earth in his representation of mankind, migrating through cycles of consciousness. He is the seed, self, sun, and universe, enabling consciousness to express itself as a manifestation in the physical earthly realm. As such, he is associated with all phases of agricultural processes and to the symbolism of the tree of life. He is expressed as green in many depictions to represent these associations and their relationship to the fertility of the earth. His dual feminine aspect. It is through the portal of our solar plexus, the lion's gate, and our true heart center that we traverse the dimensions from spirit to matter, from unity consciousness to individuated consciousness and back again. This is the hero's journey. This is likened to the path of the sun across the sky, but also basically his brother or somebody chopped him up, buried him in the ground, and that's where he's in the underworld. And then he grew up again.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting. Mari's saying the myth says his coffin floated to Lebanon and got caught on a cypress tree.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
See, we just don't know this shit. We were not taught stuff, were we? All I was taught at school was Churchill was good. Turns out he's a fucking arsehole.
More of that, maybe.
The mysteries.
Oh, but yeah, interesting as well. Going back to Maui.
Oprah's house is blue.
Well, Maori's saying that the houses in Maui, well, the wealthy ones, had the same color, so they didn't get
blue.
I'm guessing.
Oh, I see.
So they didn't get affected. I wonder if they might, because you were looking at that video of somewhere in Texas where they were getting all these beams.
Yeah, green beams
from helicopters.
Not green beans.
No.
What was I going to say then? And maybe that's why they say you've got to have permission to do things like paint your house.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
16. You can't say that we don't start off a bloody good conversation here.
No. Yeah,
Everybody learn, Andy. Right, 16. Some people think we are either close to coming out of or are already out of the Kali Yuga. Now, I wanted Ben to listen to this one because every time he does a talk on it, he gets the wrong Yuga. Some people think we are either close to coming out of or already out of Kali Yuga. Which Yuga comes next, or are we currently in? Dvapara, Treta, Satya. Which one are we going into or have stepped into already? Dvapara, Treta, Satya. Ben always gets this wrong. I bloody on purpose did this one for Ben. He's not even bloody here. If you listen to me, you'll bloody know because I bang on about it all the time. Very interesting. I'm bloody fascinated.
You've got some.
I've got books,
videos.
I've got videos about this.
You've read them out, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got videos.
Check them out, people. Videos on there.
Right. So we are. I personally think we're already in it, but some people think we're not in it yet. But I think we are. Dvapara. So who got that first? I bet I know.
Mari.
Yeah.
Well done, Mari.
Yeah. So, in Dvapara Yuga, the energy age, mankind would comprehend the fine matters and electricities underlying matter. Now, I personally think this correlates to the books mentioned above, the Jay Widener books that he mentions, and the research into plasma. I think that's why all of this is coming to the surface. We are starting to understand the fine matters and electricities which underlie matter, which is, we're starting to understand plasma. I think Tesla completely understood it.
Mari's saying Cliff High agrees with you.
Yeah. It's very, very interesting that we're starting to understand what the nature of our universe.
The electric universe.
Yeah, you got that book? The thingy rainbow? No. The electric rainbow or something?
Oh, yeah, but that's more about how
5G is going to kill us.
Or, electricity.
We made a little song about that once.
We did.
We did. Right, well done, Mari.
Yeah.
17. What was the original name for the Christmas cracker? That surprised you, didn't it? Yeah. The Cossack, the Flintlock, the Firecracker, the Man-at-Arms. I just thought this was a bit of fun.
Oh, yeah.
I was reading Andy Thomas's book. I just thought this was a bit of fun. The Cossack, the Flintlock, the Firecracker, Man-at-Arms. Christmas cracker. Original name. I thought it was a bit of fun.
Oh, yeah.
Can't say you don't bloody learn in this house.
Oh, yeah.
Are we all done? Are we all done?
Right.
Are we all done?
Yeah, well, there's been a few answers.
Did anybody put the Cossack? Cossaque. Did anybody put the Cossack mark?
No, not even in another spellings.
Nobody learned, Andy. Now, this was taken from Andy Thomas's book about Christmas.
Oh, good old Andy.
Which is fascinating.
Yeah, I love it.
So, Cossack, spelled Cossaque. I don't know why. I just find this quite a bit of interest. It's just a bit of learning, isn't it? Invented by Tom Smith in 1847, a successful manufacturer of wrapped bonbons, usually sugared almonds, which tended to sell at Christmas. Smith, who was already inserting love mottos as a sales gimmick, also started including toys and jewellery. Then, by the fireside one winter's evening, Smith claimed he was inspired by the sound of crackling log to invent cracking bonbons using a tiny explosive snapping strip. Inserting a cardboard tube to accommodate this, the basic shape of a Christmas cracker was quickly established, and the new product was marketed as the Cossack, as in the cracking whip of a Russian Cossack soldier. Don't worry, not many other people got it either. When this didn't catch on, the sensibly generic name Cracker developed instead. I just had the book by the side of me and thought that was quite bit of learning, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's good.
Bit of learning.
Bloody interesting. Yeah.
Bit of learning.
Yeah, we can bore everyone with
Linda
it.
likes a bit of learning. Look at her. Yeah. She loves it.
Loves it.
Right. 18. Oh, we're nearly there.
Ooh, yeah.
Some residents and visitors in the small city of Taos, New Mexico, have for years been annoyed and puzzled by a mysterious and faint, low-frequency hum in the desert air. One of the oddities about this phenomenon is what? So there's a buzzing in Taos, New Mexico. What is one of the oddities? Is it people in their 20s are more likely to hear it? Only men can hear it? Middle-aged people are more likely to hear it? Only women can hear it. So early 20s hear it, only men. Middle-aged hear it, only women. Right. Bloody hell, you lot are clever, aren't you?
Yeah.
Middle-aged people are more likely to hear it, Mark.
I wonder why we all thought of middle-aged people. I'm not casting any aspersions on our audience or ourselves, but anyway.
Fucking
so
hell.
What were the frequencies?
Who was the first person to get it, Mark? Your job.
Was it? Oh, so yeah. Well, it was DJ. Well done again, DJ.
DJ is on fire.
He is indeed.
So, oddly, only about 2% of Taos residents report hearing a sound. Some believe it is caused by unusual acoustics. Others suspect mass hysteria or a secret, sinister purpose. Go and have a look at my latest, community post, because I have copied a post over from BitChute. Oh, this has got nothing to do with it, but I was up all bloody night thinking about this. And it is those, you might have heard them, but go and have a look at my community post and have a look at this BitChute video. Like, trumpets, and everybody's going, oh, it's the trumpets that they predicted in the Bible. Oh my Christ, it's the trumpets. And after these trumpets, bloody horrible weather things happen. Now I said to Mark, okay, the people that believe in the Bible are going, oh my God, it's the trumpets foretold in the Bible before Armageddon. What if this happened before? And then the floods, blah, 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 blah. So it wasn't that they predicted it. They knew the technology back then, and they're just doing it fucking again. Anyway, moving on. It's got nothing to do with it. Go and have a look. It's pissing terrifying. Right. So anyway, back to the quiz. Go and have a look on the community post. Terrifying. Right. Oddly, only about 2% of Taos residents report hearing the sound. I can hear the hum round here sometimes. Mark can't hear it.
I think Bristol hum
Bristol hum.
Yeah, it's quite a lot.
Mark can't hear it. Some believe it is caused by I've read that. Whether described as a whir, a hum, or a buzz, and whether psychological, natural, or supernatural, no one is yet to be able to locate the sound's origin. A survey revealed that those who claim to hear the sounds actually hear many different sounds, suggesting the experiences may be subjective, not actually objective sounds, and pretty certainly not one particular sound. It seems possible for hearers to move away from it, with one hearer of the Taos hum reporting its range was 30 miles. There are approximately equal percentages of male and female hearers. Age does appear to be a factor, with middle-aged people more likely to hear it.
Yeah, interesting. Mari's just saying.
Well, we live on top of an underground bastard base. We live on top of. We are literally Rudloe Manor. That's where we are.
Yeah.
That's why all the bloody helicopters. Right, 19. Is that DJ again?
DJ got the last one, yeah.
A massive slab of... Now you need to... Oh, shut up. Shut up, Liz. A massive slab of ice in Antarctica is constantly what? A massive slab of ice in Antarctica is constantly what? Dancing, expanding, singing, shrinking. Dancing, expanding, singing, shrinking. Ice in Antarctica. Great big thing it is. Right. Who is the first person to say singing, Mark?
The first person is DJ again.
He's like the brain of a planet.
Johnny and Linda both got the right answer. Well done. But
well done, everybody.
DJ was first.
Now, I went on and listened to this. It is haunting, to put it that way. Yeah, so the Ross Ice Shelf is the largest ice shelf in Antarctica. That's Ross, R-O-S-S. It's several hundred meters thick and covers an area over 500,000 square kilometers, around the size of France. Scientists have recently discovered that the Ross Ice Shelf sings an eerie melody caused by the winds blowing across the snow dunes. It's worth a listen. It's terrifying in a kind of weird way. The winds create surface vibrations and almost non-stop seismic tones. The vibrations aren't audible to human ears, and scientists use seismic sensors to listen to the mournful tune. The song was discovered by accident after seismic sensors were installed on the ice shelf to observe other behaviours. It is quite, yeah, it's a very strange sound. It's lovely, but it's not. It does it all the time. It's non-stop singing.
Wow!
I know, it's lush, isn't it?
Amazing.
Right, 20. This is the last one, and I can have a bit of a break, and you can have a go then. Yggdrasil. I've just learned how to say that. Old Norse Yggdrasil, or Asker Yggdrasils, is the mighty tree whose trunk rises at the geographical centre of the Norse spiritual cosmos. The rest of that cosmos, including the 9 worlds, is arrayed around it and held together by its branches and roots, which connect the various parts of the cosmos to one another. Because of this, the well-being of the cosmos depends on the well-being of Yggdrasil. When the tree trembles, it signals the arrival of Ragnarok, the destruction of the universe. What does the word Yggdrasil mean? Literally, what does it mean? Loki's fire, Odin's horse, Thor's hammer, Baldur's day. What does Yggdrasil mean? Loki's fire, Odin's horse, Thor's hammer, Baldur's day. Who was the first one with Odin? Odin's horse.
Linda.
Well done, Linda.
Finishing with a bang.
Well done, Linda. So the first element in Yggdrasil's name, Ydra, which means terrible, is one of the countless names of the god Odin and indicates how powerful and fearsome the Vikings perceived him to be. The second element, Drasil, means horse. So Yggdrasil's name means horse of Odin, a reference to the time when the terrible one sacrificed himself to discover the runes. The tree was his gallows and bore his limp body, which the Norse poetic imagination described metaphorically as a horse and rider. Mm-hmm. Everybody learned, Andy. Right. Phew.
Well done, Linda. Right.
What's the scores on the boards?
Well,
scores on the boards.
I think we might know who's won that one.
Does it begin with D?
Yeah. And it ends
Linda.
in J. Well done, DJ. That was brilliant. 9. So almost half of the questions.
Bloody hell! I think that's a world record.
I think that probably is a world record. Mari, very impressive showing as always. Got to 4.
Wow.
And you know, and a few. Johnny got 3.
Well done.
Green Tea, Diego all got 1, and Linda, of course.
I'm sorry, DJ.
Yeah.
Come on, take your hat off, DJ. Hat off. That is a bloody world record. Now, last time you didn't want a prize, DJ, but Mark's going to type our email address in there if you want a prize. You deserve one for that. Mark, what are you doing?
I'm trying to put
Throw it on the floor.
I'm trying to put the hat on the skull.
This is our email address for anybody who wants to say hi. I usually don't reply. I usually send it to Mark because I've got this weird thing about emails. But if you do want a prize, DJ, give us your address. And we promise we won't sell it to the CIA for anything less than 400 quid.
Yeah.
But that's fantastic. Give DJ a great big...
DJ wants the prize to go to second place.
Mari, get another fucking prize whether you like it or not. Now you can't buck out of this one because you gave your prize last week to Margaret.
Maybe so donate your prize to charity.
Well done, everybody. Now, can we get some thumbs up for Liz? And because I always ask for thumbs up for Mark, and Mark never says thumbs up for Liz.
Thumbs up for Liz.
No, I have to do it my bloody self. Oh, thumbs up for Liz.
I thought we always did.
Yeah, you feel guilty now. Yeah. Right, I am going to now hand it over. Well done, DJ. That was phenomenal.
Right.
And I'm going to turn this light off because it's been blinding me. Have you got enough light there?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Right, now we're going to go over to the main event. That why you're all here.
Oh, blimey. No.
Why you're all here.
They're all here for the quiz, Molly.
No.
Yeah,
is Mark Froud, and I've still got to do some bloody work because I've got to find the pictures.
Yeah.
But let me get rid of that bloody quiz. Well done. That was so good. DJ's on fire.
Right.
Hold on a minute. I've got to try and figure out how to share. I practice this in the week and it never bloody works. Right, but it seems to work. I'm going to try entire screen. I'm just going to do it. All right. No, bear with everybody. Hold on.
Well, that looks promising.
Yeah, on ours.
Yay! Well done. Right, that's it. Let's finish.
You don't know how much fucking practice it is, but it never works.
Right. So, we will get onto this chap in a moment, but basically, my talk.
Don't forget to look that way. You're looking down there.
All right, they do.
The talk's called.
Well, Live and Let Die. We put. Funny enough, it was the song came on. The theme to Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney, whoever is embodying him at the moment. This morning. So that is a Bond theme tune, and this talk is a lot around Bond and this man in picture, the creator Ian Fleming, who wrote the books that became the films and the franchise. But it's a lot about him, but it's, again, as with other stuff I've talked about, it's all the connections and how things are all interlinked. So it's not specifically just about him and Bond, but how it all blends in. And it follows on from last week's talk about dark Hollywood. Obviously the James Bond films, we've got the cinema element. But as in the talk last week, there were all those links between the occult, Satanism, people into dark practices, the film industry, but also there were links that Tom O'Neill and I think others have talked about as well between Charles Manson, implicated with these researchers, operatives who were involved with MK Ultra. So all links back to possibly CIA mind manipulating people that are then involved in the mind manipulation industry of Hollywood. So spies, the occult, acting, and it makes sense that they're all interlinked. The word occult is about knowledge that's hidden. Intelligence agencies are all about staying hidden under the surface, unsuspected, and they're also about exerting unseen control over others, observing covertly. And this is a facet of occult practitioners in witchcraft or other magical occult practices. Spies also play a part when they're undercover. They put on a facade, a persona to convince people they're something they aren't. And that is what an actor does. Magic is about unseen control. So there's an obvious connection with espionage. And these words and images, smoke and mirrors, as I mentioned last week, it's all linking into film and the idea of portraying an image to deceive and create a different reality and to shape people's perceptions and how they see the world and how the world is. So it can be controlled. Last year's Glastonbury Symposium, got another one coming up this July. Already booked tickets, so hopefully see a few of you there.
Linda, get your ass over there. We'll have another meal.
That was weird. Literally, as I'd done that, I got an email from my friend Tony about Glastonbury Symposium.
Wow, that was so weird.
Whoa, that was something.
Really was.
Synchronicity. But anyway, Mark Devlin did an entertaining talk on James Bond and Ian Fleming, the guy in the picture. And he went over similar ground as well. Jay Dyer in his book Esoteric Hollywood, which I also talked about last week. So drawing from bits of that and other researchers' websites, and also going to be talking a bit about this book, which I found very interesting, Op JB, the Last Great Secret of the Second World War by Christopher Crichton. Well, that's one of his names anyway. So, as many of you will be aware, Fleming was himself a high-ranking intelligence officer during the Second World War. There's lots of very interesting stories that a number of people put out, and there's, again, as you might expect with the world of espionage, even if not with acting and all the rest of it, their stories differ and people have different interpretations or read them in different ways. But he was definitely a very prominent person in the intelligence services. One of the previously unknown sort of operations that he was involved with, and again, these are things that come out with various different researchers, and again, it's people have put slightly different slants on it, but basically he was involved with Rudolf Hess, who I believe we've got a picture of next, who was Hitler's deputy, who suddenly in 1941 decided to fly a plane himself over to Scotland to, well, again, reports differ. He, I think some sort of said he wanted to sort of try and negotiate to get Britain on side, because he was a bit concerned with how things were going with Hitler and the war, and he was hoping to meet up with this guy in Scotland, this aristocratic guy who was supposed to be part of this network that was sympathetic to the Nazis in Britain. And the idea was that he was going to connect up with these people, and it somehow would lead to Britain joining Germany and that sort of thing. Now, apparently, this very much, as we're going to a bit more, a lot of the Nazis were very interested in the occult, and Hess was one of those who was very interested, and he was fascinated by astrology. Now, there was apparently Ian Fleming was involved with, as I say, different interpretations of how much he was involved, but he possibly was involved with putting out this false idea that there was this network of Nazi sympathizers in Britain that Hess was going to connect with. But also, there is apparently agreement that there was connections where they got false astrological charts smuggled out through astrologers, I believe, in Switzerland, through this magazine that was popular at the time, and got charts to Hess, made him think, emboldened this idea that things weren't going well with the Nazis and the war effort, and that the time was right for him to take this leap and fly over to Britain. Now, again, I think there's some difference in the stories as to, what came first, whether there was already intelligence that Hess was thinking of. He wanted to make this contact and he wanted to try and sort of go away from Hitler and try and do his own thing, and they took advantage of that, or whether they were actually put the story out there in the first place to give him the idea that he was going to come over. Now, one of these interesting things is with Fleming's brother, Peter Fleming, who was also involved with intelligence services. He wrote a book where he had a story, but in the book, it was Hitler that flew over. But it was one of these things where a fictional story then almost became true. So that makes you think, unless you think someone was sort of psychic, it was like maybe one of these things again where they sort of put something out into the universe, if you like, or they put a narrative out there, and which is magic, I suppose. It then makes a word you don't like, but manifests, and it becomes a reality. But it seems like that they didn't, there was a lot of work behind the scenes, espionage, to get these, as I say, false astrological charts, false networks, false information that went out to the Nazis. But apparently involved in all this was Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley was heavily involved in espionage in the First World War, and also again in the Second World War. I think he spent time in Berlin, and they used him as sort of like a double agent where he...
I'll get that bit of paper.
Oh, yeah. And
sorry.
That's all right. Well, yeah, if we go into the next picture. Sorry, we went slightly out of order there on my pictures, but I'm always slightly off-piste, as it were. I bought this because this picture is from Raiders of the Lost Ark. I meant to mention when I was talking about the Nazi connection with the occult, because this connects into another famous film series, the Indiana Jones films, which is obviously another one of these Hollywood insiders. Steven Spielberg, George Lucas as well was involved with the Indiana Jones films, I think at the beginning at least. And certainly the first film and the Last Crusade, the third film, it's all around the Nazis and their obsession with getting ancient artifacts and ancient technology. And I was thinking of that during the quiz when you were talking about how the Americans in the Gulf War raided this museum in Iraq for all this ancient artifacts, including this Baghdad battery. And it's a similar thing again. The Nazis were fascinated by ancient technology, and obviously in the Raiders of the Lost Ark film, they're trying to get hold of the Ark of the Covenant because they want the power to make them powerful in war. And I think, again, as I said, Spielberg, who was in charge of those films, is very much someone in the know. And again, it's an idea of Hollywood putting out as entertainment things that were, which were true and were very, very serious. And certainly this occult connections of the Nazis, and this idea where they wanted to use the occult to increase their power. But it's I think as we go into it more, a lot of these stories where they're talking about Fleming using Crowley and using his knowledge of the occult to then influence people in Germany who were involved with the Nazis to get them on side, or to be like a double agent and to get them round to infiltrate them so they do things that the British wanted to do. But some of the stories I was reading, the interpretations, for instance, of this Hess escapade, shall we call it, were just that Crowley was a bit of an old, getting a bit doddery by that point, seemed quite mild-mannered, and he was just being used as an advisor, and people like Fleming, other people I'm going to come on to that involved intelligence services, were just interested in on an academic level with the occult and with what Crowley could teach them. But I think maybe there was more to it than that, and it was actually that many people very high up in the British establishment, British espionage, government, military, were in the same way as these Nazis were, that these fictional characters were symbolizing, in the same way as that. They were equally wanting to get these occult things to increase their power. And I think this ties into things that we talked about before. So again, some differing stories as to how much Fleming was interested before about the occult, astrology, but he's very interested in the esoteric. And there's been studies done, which I mentioned later, Philip Gardner, I think his name is, did a book, The Bond Code, where he was talking about doing an analysis of the books, and they're laden with symbology, things like Gnostics, Freemasonry, Kabbalah. So it shows he was very knowledgeable about all these subjects, and it seems to be more than just a passing interest and some of these balmy Nazis are into astrology, so we can enlist our balmy occultist Crowley to help deceive them. I think they were much more deeply into it than that. There's another significant someone who was very interested in the occult and who was also interested, or a big figure in the security services, was someone called Maxwell Knight, and that's him. Now, bizarrely, I think I say bizarrely, but you get these weird links and diversions. But I think after the war, he wrote about naturalism, wildlife, a bit of a David Attenborough of his day, and I think he actually might have even done programs about it. So that's why he's here with a fox, although it does look a little bit Illuminati, because he's covering up his eye with the poor, slightly confused and scared fox there. So,
hi, Ego.
Hello, Ego. Glad you can make it. So, I mean, Fleming had connections with various people. Vanessa Hoffman's mentioned here, someone who was interested in the occult, and then got Fleming interested. Maxwell Knight, as I say, was someone who was very interested in the occult, and also was someone who knew very well our friend Aleister Crowley. So we might as well bring him up, because he's next on the picture list. So as I say, he worked as an informant during the First World War, was introduced to Fleming, and they dined together, and then supposedly they got involved with these different projects, and it was planned to use this occult influence, which the Nazis, their interest in it, to use it against them. Now there are claims. I think it was a son of Crowley, Amado Crowley, who claimed that that Fleming took place in a magic ritual in Ashdown Forest with Crowley and the chap Maxwell Knight. They dressed an effigy made to resemble Hess, so it's all around this, trying to get him over when he came over on the plane, and intended to get this Hess to, I guess, magically, for want of a better word, to put this in his mind that he needed to come over and come over from Germany and fly over to Britain. So again, this is a claim by Crowley's illegitimate son and protege, who said he was present at the ritual itself, but obviously other people cast doubt on whether that happened or not. But again, I'm not, wouldn't be surprised at all. I think there's a lot more. They were a lot deeper into it with that than a lot of research seems to show. But they definitely, it's undoubted that Crowley was used by the intelligence services. Again, it differs, but it's claimed, or certainly claimed, that Crowley offered to actually be an interrogator of Hess when he came over to Scotland, and he got caught and he was arrested and he was with the British authorities. There's other reports that it was actually some expert in astrology that was chosen instead. But again, there's a possibility that Crowley may have actually been involved with the interrogation of Hess, which would again show that he was very highly thought of. So there was, as I say, there was, again, what espionage is about, obviously, is creating these false narratives, false stories. There was this organization called The Link, which was, well, I say was supposedly, I think it was, there were undoubtedly Nazi sympathizers, fascist sympathizers within Britain. And this organization was involved with this plot, if you like, to convince Hess that the people were going to join with him to make Britain switch allegiance to be one with Germany. Now, this link was connected to the next picture, Major General JFC Boney Fuller, CBE. Now, he is quite, well, another fascinating character. I did read about him in this. So we're going to go back to John Dee again in a bit.
All roads lead to Dee.
Indeed, they do.
Oh,
yeah, indeed, they're there. So, this book about John Dee, which then went out to go to people that he influenced, and majorly Aleister Crowley, and then people then that Crowley influenced, and how these, again, all these sort of tentacles spread out into so many different fields that it is quite astonishing, really, the grip over our society and, you know, what's become our society. So this guy Fuller, a famous military analyst. He designed the tactics for the first tank battle in World War One. He also invented the concept of blitzkrieg that was used so successfully in World War II by the German panzers. But he's a British general. He was an open admirer of Hitler. He actually attended the Führer's 50th birthday party in 1939. He was also a leading member of Sir Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists.
Who?
Sir Oswald Mosley. Sorry, my mouth's drying up.
Yeah. There's more water here if you want some.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. But he was a leading disciple of Aleister Crowley. He came to he was a young infantryman, so obviously this is going back quite a long way from when he got up to this general level. But he was fascinated by Crowley, thought he was this magus that could be the key to becoming this sort of Nietzschean Superman. So this tied in for him. He had all these sort of fascistic ideas and a sort of a master race idea. He was anti-Semitic. I know that term has been abused in recent times, but yeah, he was very. Although I'll go on to that in a minute. He became Crowley's star pupil. He won a contest to write an essay about Crowley's works. It sounds a bit weird, isn't it? Really, it's like sending in an essay about Aleister Crowley. It sounds like I was going to say it sounds like Jim Will Fix It, but then that might actually be an appropriate connection. But so after this, he wrote a series of gushing essays in praise of Crowley for a magazine called The Equinox. But like quite often happened with Crowley and people that were his disciples, and he was who were devotees, they sort of fell out. Apparently there was some libel case which this guy Fuller, he was angry that Crowley didn't help in the defense, and Fuller didn't like the fact that Crowley was bisexual, basically shag anything. That having sex with men for him, that was like he destroyed his idea that Crowley was this manly ideal. So he fell out with Crowley, but he was still he carried on being fascinated by the occult, and he did lots of his further research. So in terms of his military, as I say, he was massively influential. He wrote a book, 1926, The Foundations of the Science of War. And apparently that, according to Louvre, synthesized his occult and military training. So he had a scheme of warfare, not just in the physical world, but moral, mental, cosmic spheres. He applied Kabbalistic formula like the law of threes to the battlefield. And his theories remained core to military thinking throughout the 20th century. The British used it as early as 1921, and the Americans took it up. And his theories remained in use in these armies until the 1990s. So his tactics were a major component in 2 world wars, and as Louvre put it, helped in the expansion of the American empire. And Louvre, as I say, it was a book about Dee and then his influences. So he was comparing it with how Dee obviously had his occult interest, but also he was a real scientist, and his navigational science, optical technology, and also his theories of empire were hugely influential in the Elizabethan age in their expanding of, if you like, a war machine, conquest and empire. So up into now you go to the 20th century, the first part of the 20th century and on, and this guy Fuller, it was, it's sort of unbelievable in a way, because he's a major general in the British Army. So he designs these things which are used by the British Army, but then he goes over to Germany, and Hitler loves him, and he's there at some big parade of all this military hardware in the sort of, I think, sort of leading up to the Second World War, when the Germans were getting built up for all these, eventually they're going to start the conquests of countries and they're going to lead to the Second World War. And Hitler apparently said to him, all these tanks, he was like, oh, how do you like your children? And he's like, oh, yes, they've grown up very well. So he's hugely influential. I mean, this blitzkrieg that the Nazis used, tank formations blasting through very quickly through enemy lines. It was a major tactic that was successful for the Nazi Germany in their conquest of all these countries. So he saw Hitler as an architect of a new modernized Holy Roman Empire. So we've heard all that phraseology before, haven't we? And he was, but you would think that he would he was obviously a traitor to Britain, and he would have been arrested when the war broke out because he was a massive influence on Germany's power. But no, there was other Nazi sympathizers, fascists such as Edward Mosley, that were arrested and interned during the Second World War because they couldn't be trusted because they would help the Germans. But he wasn't. He remained free, and he died in 1966 in Cornwall. So some people have suspected
1966.
That's when he died. Yeah,
1966.
yeah. Well, yeah, but some people suspected that maybe he was allowed to remain free because he was actually a double agent. But it was one of these things which does happen. It's like with read these espionage stories, and again, it's the elite people. They're doing games, and it's like, oh, for the good of the war. Oh, this whole regiment, we're going to have to send them to their deaths, but just to make the enemy think that's the main place where we're going. But actually, really, we're attacking over there. But oh yeah, we've got to let this whole regiment get slaughtered. And there was so much of those things that happened in the Second World War. So if he was a double agent, it was quite a big one because he was basically he gave the Germans their whole plans for their domination with tank regiments and things like that. But maybe more than just a double agent in physical warfare. Because I say, Louvre was talking about how he was an extreme anti-Semite, but in 1937, he wrote about the wisdom of Kabbalah, and there were Zionist passages in there talking about the chosen people and that Israel. This is in 37, so this was before Israel, the modern state of Israel, was formed. Israel will become terrible as an army with banners. When this is accomplished, not a Gentile will be left to pollute the earth, for Israel will have become its messianic shin, which will untie the tongue of God, and on the utterance of his name will the entire universe vanish into absolute light. So it's like, well, if he's anti-Semitic, why is he talking about this Zionist ruling the world and all Gentiles will be killed? It goes back to this sort of apocalyptic sort of belief that there needs to be an apocalypse to get a new messianic world on earth. I talked about again with John Dee and a lot of these secret societies, but to me it's like suggesting there was it well we know, I mean, maybe we can't say about these two things not too much on YouTube, but that there is lots of allegations that how much where I think the bottom line is it's always the people in power that are manipulating things. So the vast majority of Jewish people that were sacrificed, shall we say, but a very few people in power who are claimed to be of that religion, actually for them, maybe this is all some grand plan. So maybe this guy Fuller, he would prepare the means for destruction for the British and the Americans, but also he would do it for the Nazis. And it's this idea that ultimately the people in charge of both, the top people, they don't suffer during wars. And as we know, there's, major corporations, the extreme rich and powerful, that had stakes in both sides, not just in the First and Second World War, but in many previous wars as well. So it's this idea that they just want war, and it's all part of their agenda to make them more powerful, richer, etc. And maybe also there's an ultimate ideal for many of them where they're wanting to lead to this apocalypse, and they're prepared to sacrifice anyone and everyone else of the normal people, us, just the general people who they regard as inferior. So Louvre did mention as well the fact that he was spared any conviction for treason. There's some that say Churchill himself intervened to enable him to go free. And as Liz mentioned before, as we mentioned again during the quiz, it was a good lead up.
Good lead up.
It was all unintentional. We were just like synchronistic. That's yeah.
Well, I wish you'd hurry up and get to the next one. I feel like he's fucking. I feel like he's fucking hypnotising me with his scary eyes. All
right, so let's move on a bit. So anyway, but yeah, we know lots of things about Churchill, but we'll talk a bit more of him as well. So as I say, there was a use of astrology and the occult to convince Hess, apparently, that the time was right for him to come across. And after this happened, suddenly there was a big backlash. Hitler and the other Nazis, that there was a number of arrests made of astrologers and other occult people in Germany. Hess's own astrological advisor, Ernst Schulterstrassus, I'm mispronounced, I'm sure, had denied giving any information that may have influenced Hess, though he was in prison nonetheless on the grounds that he had advised Hitler's deputy to make the May 10th flight. And Joseph Goebbels, he said Hess had fallen under the influence of astrologers during a period of what Goebbels referred to as failing health. And so there was this, as I say, there was a backlash against people who were astrologers, that because they were accused of helping to create this deception. So yeah, Crowley apparently said, if it's true that Herr Hess is much influenced by astrology and magic, my services might be of use to the department. In the case, he should not be willing to do what you wish. So as I say, a Brigadier Roy Firebrace, who, as it turns out, had been the first president of the Astrological Association of Great Britain, was employed during the interrogation instead, according to this one report, due in part to the multitude of strange esoteric symbolic aspects that were coming forth in ramblings of a noticeably disturbed Rudolf Hess. So it wouldn't, I mean, that to me does sound like he had some sort of possession happening to him. And obviously he was mentally unwell, but, you know, perhaps this had been induced by something that was occult. And as I say, there was a 1940 book, so it came out a year before Hess's flight, written by Fleming's brother, Peter Fleming, titled The Flying Visit. In that book, Hitler is supposed to be the one who goes into a plane and flies to England, and parachutes down, is apprehended by a British agent. And after that, peace talks ensue with his captors. But it's intriguing that came out a few months before something that actually resembled that, only it was with Hitler's deputy, Hess, instead. But yeah, I mean, the again, going back to the Louvre book, because he was writing about why astrology was considered dangerous, because back in Dee's time, I don't know if you remember back my talk then, it was talking about because he did astrological charts for Elizabeth I, amongst others. He did one when she was about to be her coronation. She wanted to know the most auspicious date, and also he did a horoscope saying that she would have a long and successful reign, and apparently that was in contradiction to Nostradamus's had a prediction which said the opposite. So Louvre was saying that astrology, it's a way of defining the narrative of reality, and magicians can appear to change reality, but actually just change how they're perceived, how reality is perceived. So it's a manipulation of, in his words, confirmation bias. And he was saying in today's era, in the political sphere, he talked about George Lakoff, who's a linguist, who's also high up in the Democratic Party. So he talked about framing language, how you use words to affect people's thoughts. And apparently there's a Frank Luntz as well, who does a similar thing for the Republicans. So as Lou says, this is a form of magic. It's manipulating words, and it's changing perceptions, making people see reality in a different way. And that can then lead to a different outcome in that reality. And I was thinking, he didn't mention himself, Lou, but he was talking about Lakoff, who was a linguist and then got involved in politics and was sort of transferring that knowledge of words into politics. And again, politics, like espionage, again, it's manipulating words, it's playing a part, it's affecting people's lives, controlling them. But I was thinking of Noam Chomsky. Again, he started as a very famous linguist and then became this darling of the left. And he's written many good books, that exposing how language has been used in political spheres, different places, to manipulate and control people. But as we know, he showed himself up, well, probably before the lockdowns, etc., but certainly in terms of his reaction to people not having the Jabberwocky. But yeah, it's again, it's this idea of how the occult, it basically just ties in with how things are in the political and espionage spheres. So now, I mean, to go on to
getting rid of this idiot now.
Yeah, let's get into it. What's the next picture? Yes, Crichton. Let's go on to Mr. Crichton.
Oh, Christ.
No, Crichton. So he's got the book in his hands, actually, which I've got here, so I don't need to really hold it up anymore. But I got this book because it was mentioned by Tony Gosling. I don't know if anyone's familiar to, but he's a good researcher. He's based not far from here, down the road in Bristol. I think he used to work for the BBC a long time ago, but he's been an independent researcher. Comes out for a lot of good stuff. I can't remember where I heard him was talking, but he mentioned this book. He was talking about it in terms of the outcome of it, if you like, because this the book, which most people, shall we say, think is just a made-up story, but this guy Christopher Crichton, he does go by other names, but that's his name on the book title. But he says, and this was long after the date, he said he kept it secret because he couldn't reveal anything. But basically, he said that right at the end of the Second World War, as Germany was falling in and the Allies were descending on Berlin, he was the head of this secret operation with Ian Fleming, who was the man above him, to get Martin Bormann out of Germany. Now, Martin Bormann was Hitler's secretary, and I think, interestingly, after Hess, I think his power increased after Hess went, because Hess was basically Hitler's number 2. And as I say, in 1941, he flew over to Scotland and then was captured by the Allies. So Bormann, he had a lot of power, and he knew, he had basically the knowledge of where a lot of the fortune was held. Oh yeah. Oh.
Do you want me to go on to it?
Yeah, we'll have a look in. Yeah. So he was.
This is Bormann.
Yeah, so Bormann. So he was Hitler's secretary, and he, as I say, he basically, the British got him out, according to Crichton, because they did an agreement with him for his safe passage out and being kept alive and not tried and kept in secret. He would divulge secrets of all this money that the Nazis had nicked and they had stored in Swiss bank accounts and things like that. And so this could be used for the Allies. Now, as I say, I mean, the story that Crichton says is denied by most sources, but I think in many ways it's very credible. And he describes how basically, as a very young man, he was basically groomed, if you like, by, if you go back to there was Desmond Morton, this man. So Desmond Morton formed a section of the intelligence services that was top secret, even within the intelligence services. It was some extra sort of niche bureau. Morton was supposedly in charge of this industrial espionage, basically a front. It was supposed to be to do with industry interests, but actually became a front for starting this this branch of the security services. But it was only, so it was separate from the other security services. It basically reported to Churchill, and interestingly, Crichton said that it was basically bypassed the government and it reported to the king and the different kings that were in that period. But it reported directly to them. Now, this interests me because, to go back to John Dee, obviously, as I probably mentioned in my talk before, he was the original 007. He used to sign off letters that he wrote to the Queen as 007, and apparently this was sort of like an occult symbolic number. I've read somewhere where the 00 was like for eyes, like sort of for your eyes only type thing. But excuse me, the importance of the number 7, of course, is in the occult, we know about. And the Queen used to write back and sign off as M, and of course M was the James Bond's boss. So and as Dee was involved in these intelligence services, the very start, as I said, with Walsingham, who was Queen Elizabeth I's assistant, if you like, and was credited as being the start of the first intelligence services. He built up all this spy network, which Dee was part of. So right at the beginnings there of the intelligence services, you've got someone who's interested in the occult as well as real sciences, and then became involved with all of these or inspired secret societies. So all of this has been entwined from those centuries ago. Now, this Desmond Morton, again, I think this M section, as it was called, and again, you've got the letter M, and so many people have been said to be the inspiration for M, the character in the James Bond novels. But he's someone that Crichton says was an inspiration. But again, he was very secretive, and although he was certainly said in mainstream sources to have been part of the intelligence services, a lot of these things which Crichton talks about in his book certainly are unofficial. Now, I found a lot of the story plausible. There's there's one or two scenes, like there's a description of an earlier bit before this, where he got Bormann out of Germany, where he was actually captured, and he actually got brought into the presence of Hitler, and he'd been tortured, and again it was to give up a false story of when where a landing was going to be, and basically something which led to lots of Allied soldiers being killed, but that was part of the Secret Service's plan, because they wanted to divert attention away from somewhere else where the real attack was going. The way the scene's presented, it reads as if it's part of a film, but then I think that might be partly due because there's this double bind, because, as I say, this operation, it says Op JB on the book, but it's actually Operation James Bond. And as has been mentioned, Ian Fleming got the James Bond name from an ornithologist, I think. He did bird books, and he had that book in his home, so he chose the James Bond name. But he used that name for this secret operation to get Bormann out, and then obviously it became the name for the character in the books. But Stuck Crichton said that he had quite a reasonably well-to-do family. Now, they were friendly with Lord Mountbatten, who was also said to be someone that, people reported to for this intelligence section, the M section. And as Liz says, apparently the FBI had a report on him. Used to nickname him Mount Bottom because he was a known paedophile. So again, we've got someone of dark, nefarious
favorite.
Yeah. So, oh, you mean our current?
Yeah.
So, well, yes. Now we've got again another connection to the current king. But as I say, apparently the monarchy were involved directly as the head of this M section and what they did via Churchill and Mountbatten. And I do find that interesting because, again, well, the origins of the intelligence services go back to the Elizabethan time, reporting to her, but it also goes back to the idea where people say that the royalty don't have any power. And, I think that's... I think we know that that's not the case, but I think this is a good example of it. But certainly the story is true of getting Bormann out. Basically, a lot of people died or were tortured in order to get this guy out. And as Crichton says, he questions himself the morality of that, because basically, at the end of the day, it was all about getting the Nazi gold, it was to get money, and supposedly that was to be used for rebuilding the Allies countries after the war and all these good things. But did it happen for that reason? We all know the whole monetary system, as we know, is a nonsense anyway. They can just make numbers out of thin air whenever they want to support wars or do what they want to, but if it's for actually something important to people, then they say, oh no, we haven't got a magic money tree. So basically, it just shows the ruthlessness and the disrespect for human life. And I think ultimately, perhaps there was more than just a financial reason as well. Maybe they wanted Bormann for other reasons. And again, this tied to this idea maybe where there was at the highest levels, the people were all interlinked, and then they're just really against us. Now, what's the next? I won't quite go on to them, right? Just to mention a bit more about this chap Crichton.
I'll go back to Crichton, shall
I? Why not? Oh, we're going. There we go. So I do find fascinating because it's. I mean, the story, as some of the reviews on it, even though they don't believe that it's a true story, they say, "Oh, well, it's a rattling good story." Again, it's this sort of double bind because Fleming became this writer of James Bond with all these things that this fictional hero did, but then apparently a lot of that was modelled on what Crichton did and other agents. But the thing is now, because we've seen it in fictional films or read it in fictional books, we just think now, like that scene where, as I say, he was tortured and he was dragged in front of Hitler, that just seems now like a scene from a film. So it doesn't seem believable in real life. But I think maybe it's just because one of these things where we're presented these things as fiction first, and they project this fantasy out, and it then makes us disbelieve what we actually, what anything we might find out about the truth, and then they can hide things in plain sight in a way. But although it's a realistic, if you like, a war story of espionage, this Crichton, he had supposedly a religious belief, and he talks about the moral dilemmas he was sort of, basically, it sounds like he was groomed as a young man, really, that he was all these influential figures. He met Churchill at a young age as well, and that they decided that he was going to be this agent. His family had a friendship with Ribbentrop, who was the German foreign minister, I think. So they were able to use that connection as well. I think he could speak German from a young age. So they used all these things, and they created all these different personas for him. So they created this character, John Davis, who was supposed to be a sailor who was sympathetic to the Nazis and had all these fascistic leanings, and was prepared to double cross Britain so they could use him as sort of like a double agent idea. But I was fascinated though, because Crichton said when he was just 15, and he said this happened again later in life as well. He saw My Black Angel. He was in a chapel. He was a musician as well, this guy, and he'd been playing the piano or something, and he went to leave, and he said a black figure in a porch called out his name, and he ran to another door, but the figure was there too, and he was paralyzed by fear, rooted to the spot, and he thought that this thing didn't come into the chapel because it was a chapel, so it wouldn't come in, it would just stand by the doorway. And then he said the black figure in his mind spoke to him, saying, "John, soon you will be mine. Not in death, but in life, you will place my mark on the world conflict that is about to start. You will be with me. You will serve me. In the name of war, you will commit crimes. In the name of victory and in my name, you will do vicious deeds. You will be one of my angels of death." Now, again, with knowing all these connections of black magic with these people that, and that isn't meant, nothing about black magic is mentioned in the book except for these mentions of this dark angel. But again, perhaps this guy was around these people who were interested in black magic. Maybe there was something of that was happening to possess him, and that he was going to be used for these very dark deeds. you know, this was a guy that was taken under the wing of Churchill, this guy Morton and Mountbatten. We know these very evil, dark connections. So to sort of move along a bit. So what's the next? So yeah, another person very much high up in military intelligence and involved with books that then became films was Dennis Wheatley, who I know Thomas Sheridan talked about and many other people, but he someone who was, let me just get to me a bit here. He was involved in, apparently again, he specifically was in an office in a basement underneath Churchill in a small elite team that used to, I think they were called something like the Deception Squad, but they used to basically write stories. They used to write narratives of ways, like I was mentioning before, about like ideas like, I think there was something around the Normandy landings where they were putting out false stories to put out to the enemy so that they would come across this information thinking it was true. So they would set all the defenses up in one place and so the attack would go somewhere else, that kind of thing. But again, he became a fiction writer, and he was writing fiction for the intelligence services, stuff that was manipulating people's perception, that was very much influencing real life, and it was influencing whether people were killed or not. So there's again this connection. It's sort of like, it made me think of the Shakespeare term "all the world's a stage," because that's increasingly, that's what was happening here, and it's increasingly what's happened now, as we know, all these false flag incidents. It's, you don't know what to believe because they're continually manipulating and putting false stories out, false images. So everything is constant manipulation of how we perceive the world. So just before I go on a little bit more with Wheatley to talk about Crichton, the interesting thing is, one of the many interesting things, but after the war, he was summoned by Fleming and Morton, and it was like, now we want you to go into acting. And he was like, what the fuck, basically, what are you talking about? He was but you know, Fleming said to him, you've done it all your life, and Morton was saying, that's what most intelligence agents do. You act. You've been acting almost from the day you entered my section, if not before. And Fleming said, you've got natural talent, but you need to learn the trade properly and have the rough edges ironed out. Morton said, then you may be of some real use to us. Which is funny, because it may be of some real use to us. I mean, he's already, again, if you believe the story, he's already been used in all these undercover operations in the Second World War. But it's like, you now may be of real use to us in the make-believe world of acting. So that, it's sort of like when I was saying before about the Black Dahlia thing in Hollywood. You know, that happened post the Second World War. That happened in 1947. It was somehow like, and I know, sadly, very physical wars, people being blown to pieces, invaded, their lives uprooted in the real world. That certainly didn't stop. But it was like there was this whole other area of warfare against everyone, and in the Western world, supposedly at peace, by the people that was supposedly looking after us. It's to me, it's that saying, you know, this is the new field where all this is going to be going on. It's going to be in the world of acting, and then the new world was only just starting, I guess, at that stage, going into film. So to begin with, this Crichton, he went into RADA, the Old Vic, and Crichton was saying how he was standing outside the Old Vic with one of the colleagues from this operation, and they were looking at this sign of this play that was about to take place with Laurence Olivier and Ralph Richardson, and it was like, and they were saying, "My God, how are you going to be acting with those?" And it's like, well, Ian Fleming fixed it with two of his pals, ex-Fleet Air Lieutenant Commanders Laurence Olivier and Ralph Richardson. So again, the connections to the military and the acting and film worlds. So to go back to Wheatley, he again was fascinated by the occult, and got friendly with Crowley, along with Fleming, and people like this Maxwell Knight who I mentioned earlier. I mean, it's interesting again. I was saying that, you know, a lot of the talk is that, oh, it's just they just had an interest in it in an academic sense, and it was, and Crowley was just, you know, he's quite old by then, he was quite mild-mannered. They heard all these stories, terrible stories about him, but he just seemed like, you know, a nice old chap, and he'd been helpful for him as a sort of a double agent. But interesting, like Himmler, apparently during the Second World War, he was head of the SS, I think, so very nasty head of, you know, high up in the Nazi party. He was obsessed by the idea that British intelligence was a Rosicrucian order, and that occult adepts were in charge of MI5. This was mentioned in J. Dyer's book, and he may well have been right. So as I say, Wheatley worked in Churchill's basement as a deception planner, which, well, let's face it, there's a lot of those. There's probably a very big department now, I would imagine. So Wheatley apparently said Crowley was interesting but harmless. This guy, Tom Dryberg, who I've heard mentioned, who was someone else connected with Crowley, who was again in this scene, he apparently warned Wheatley Fleming that, oh, this guy, Crowley, in North Sicily, a number of children were rumoured to have disappeared in connection with satanic masses. And Knight and Wheatley apparently had an all-absorbing interest in the occult. That was something that Ian Fleming's wife, Lois, said. But, you know, it's interesting in a way that they said that Maxwell Knight thought that these stories about Crowley were fascinating, you know, but to many normal people like me and you, they'd be like repulsed. You know, it's not fascinating as such as just horrible, you know, like some of the, you know. So Knight told his nephew that he and Wheatley went to Crowley's occult ceremonies just to research black magic for Wheatley's books, just to research them for the books. They applied to join as novices and were accepted as pupils of Crowley. Now, like I said before, I'm not sure. There's this image, there's this where it's put out where just Crowley was this sort of interesting guy. Maybe was a bit of use in terms of because the Nazis were into the occult, they could use some of his knowledge to get in their heads a bit, to help to, you know, put out some deceptions that would help with the war effort. And they, you know, just interested for academic or things, or maybe just to make an interesting story for one of Dennis Wheatley or Ian Fleming's books. But I think that there might be a bit more to it. I mean, it's very I was intrigued as well as just a little bit further in Jay Dyer's book. So it seems to go on before, just to read a little bit more from here. So it says that the links became clear. Wheatley, Knight and Ian Fleming were the chief architects of the ruse to co-opt Crowley for the purpose of luring Rudolf Hess, as I mentioned that before. Sorry. I do apologise. Oh yeah, sorry. So I just wanted to get over to this bit. So post the Second World War, because for James Bond's villain, we had the thumbnail with Ernest Blofeld, and apparently him and some of the other Bond villains were supposedly modelled on Crowley, different elements of him, his looks or his sexual appetites. So it says, indeed, not only was the beginning of Fleming's inspirations for 007 and the fictional occult, and also the Duc de Richelieu in Wheatley's novels, but is in fact the same circles that will produce the OSS in 1942, later to become the CIA in 1947. The curious convergence of espionage, Hollywood, the occult, and high finance becomes manifest. Its writer Cabell continues, it was May 25th, 1941, when Fleming and Godfrey stepped off the flying boat at LaGuardia, New York. They were there to observe US port security alongside, I mentioned, won't go into details there, but basically, Donovan was senior partner in a law firm, but during the Great War, he had worked as a private intelligence gatherer for JP Morgan, when they're one of these Rockefeller-type connected people. So he was a known, albeit unused, officer. Fleming had tried to coax Donovan into Operation Goldeneye, another one that got used in the Bond book, but Godfrey had him personally marked for the US. As was mentioned in the book, The Second Oldest Profession, Spies and Spying in the 20th Century, Donovan was helped to prepare his submissions to Roosevelt by Stevenson, the SIS officers attached to his staff. So basically, Godfrey and his personal assistant, Ian Fleming, later with the James Bond films, crossed the Atlantic to work on this campaign. So the British were trying to influence Roosevelt to start this secret service, the OSS, which would become the CIA. This Desmond Morton, who we mentioned before, of the Industrial Intelligence Center, said, to all intents and purposes, US security is being run for them at the President's request by the British. It is, of course, essential that this fact should not be known in view of the furious uproar it would cause if known to the isolationists. And another report I read said that Crowley was in New York at the same time as Fleming went there to start this undercover operation to influence these people, to influence Roosevelt to grant the start of this organization, the OSS, and the CIA. So it's this early idea. Again, well, to me, I think that they're people with these occult connections were at the very early origins of these organizations like the CIA. And as we know, is feeding back there, as I was saying about the CIA, MK Ultra, and then that being involved with the Manson thing that in the last talk, and how that then fed back into Hollywood. Dennis Wheatley, his Devil Rises Out book, that was made into a film, and that was starring Christopher Lee, and we got a picture of him. And that actually, funny enough, I think is him playing a Bond villain in the Man with the Golden Gun. So he's got a connection with Bond there as well. But Christopher Lee he's talked in sort of vague terms, but basically sort of saying that he was involved in special forces, I think, during the war, perhaps as an assassin, but sort of wouldn't say specifically what he did. But someone who's also very interested himself in the occult. As I say, he played this character in The Devil Wears Out, and obviously he's known for playing many horror characters in horror films, but actually had a very deep personal interest in it in his own life as well. Apparently has a signed book by Anton LaVey, Church of Satan. Again, I mentioned that in the talk last week, and his friendship with Kenneth Anger, Church of Satan, had celebrity people following James Mansfield, whose Grisly Death photo was also in the Hollywood Babylon book, written by Kenneth Anger, Sammy Davis Jr.
Have a drink. You sound a bit.
Oh.
You're running out of steam.
Yeah, I am a little bit, but keep going a bit more. But I should read The Devil's Ride Out, or maybe watch the film. I haven't, but just again reading it in Jay's Dyer book, there was a character there who was supposed to be wed to Satan. That made me think of Rosemary's Baby, which was, of course, directed by Roman Polanski, because that's something that happens in those films as well. And there's a ritual on Salisbury Plain, and that made me think again that that actually now is obviously a military base. Basically, the general public it's pretty no-go area. You can't get in there or it's difficult.
Well, they took hold of that whole village, didn't they?
Oh yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
Oh yeah, in the second to practice basically.
They just kicked out everybody, didn't they? You can go and visit it once a year or something ridiculous.
Right. So again, it's I think that around our areas we've talked about a military base just under our feet, basically. Yeah. But a lot of people talked about the reasons they're here. Obviously, there's some wide open spaces like Salisbury Plain, but also it's around all these places where there's ancient sites, there's ancient knowledge. And is that one of the reasons why the military are here? Because they want to be connected to these ancient forces. And again, it connects in with these ideas of the occult, which have been going on for centuries. The Devil's Ride Out has a foiled attempt at child sacrifice. Obviously, I've talked about lost children before, previous live stream and in my books. It's at the heart of things, I really feel. Dyer writes, there's a deeper strand of revelation here, more than spies and weird movies. Wheatley is a high-level insider in Western intelligence elite and an associate of Crowley, and he reveals the work in his book, Becoming the Film, of the upper crust, now evident in the stories of very real-life things like the Franklin cover-up, Detroit in Belgium, Jimmy Savile, these terrible paedophile rings.
And now P. Diddy, Puff Daddy,
yes,
trying to corrupt the rap.
Yeah, it's never-ending circle.
It's all about blackmail. Yeah. Epstein was about blackmail. They reckon his P. Diddy thing is about blackmail. I said to Mark today, we just need one great big pedo amnesty. All these people that are getting away with murder because they've got tapes or whatever, blackmail on people. We just need a big old pedo amnesty where we say, right, we're not going to chop your bollocks off. We're not going to put you in prison. Just tell us what the fuck's going on. And then maybe we do after that. I'm just saying. But until they can come out and tell their story for real, then this is just going to keep going on and on.
But it's protecting them against what would happen to them. The violence towards them, I suppose, would scare them. But
that's how blackmail works.
But as an aside to that, another book which Ian Fleming wrote, apart from the James Bond books, was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, and what happens in that? They catch kids for the royal family.
Yeah, back to that again. So as I say, there was this M section, and it was tied up with royalty. and Mountbatten, who was a paedophile. So, well, there are other secret stories in there. So Dyer says in voodoo, there's an old myth the devil appears at the crossroads, but also he rides out in similar fashion, just as the crossroads of occult, film, and espionage meet. So I just to sort of run through at the end, just a few things within the James Bond films that are revealing things of a wider conspiracy nature, in inverted commas. I mean, this scene was mentioned by Devlin and Dyer, but in Diamonds Forever, Sean Connery, maybe the third of the Bond films, but there's a thing where he's in this secret lair, and there's all things to do with space within this plans of the dastardly Bond villain, and then he's making his getaway, James Bond, and then suddenly he runs through like a film set, which is basically like a fake moon landing where they're filming the astronauts on the moon, and then it's a weird scene, and I don't think it's in the book, but somehow, why would they insert this in the film? It's like a little inside
joke.
If you like, but
but who knows, it might be double
who knows that as well, but a revelation of the method, maybe,
or a revelation of who the fuck knows.
Who the fuck knows? Well, that's the thing.
7D chess.
That is the thing, because all these deception stories, I mean, that's the thing with the Crichton. It's like, is it a true story or not? But the thing is, the whole point is, you don't know, because there's so many full stories.
They muddled it. They mixed up the water.
He says within that, he talks about there was so he said basically Bormann was brought back to Britain, and for a while he lived undercover. He was given a new identity, I think some plastic surgery, and a different identity, and he actually lived within England for quite some time, but then it became a bit embarrassing, and he actually ended up getting moved to Uruguay, and as we know, a lot of old Nazis went out to South America. Although it says there that he was used by the Americans to help them flush out some of the old Nazis. Whether that was true again, I don't know. Probably more likely for other things. But they were saying how there was a whole story put out. There was a double of Bormann, who, and it came out in the papers, he was married or a partner of this lady, and he was telling her, I'm Martin Bormann, and she was sort of believing his story and was convinced that he was Bormann, and this Crichton said that someone he knows from the operation, who was still in the Secret Service, they took him to this guy's grave, this double, and said, that's Bormann. That's how we ended up. And it wasn't until years later he found out, no, he, as I say, was taken to Uruguay and then died, I think maybe in the 70s. And apparently the official story is that he was supposed to have died in this fall of Berlin. And he was supposed to be buried by where some freeway is or something, but they hadn't been able to find the body. And then they did later find the body in the 70s, and it was like proved that apparently was Bormann. So what he's saying is what actually happened when he died in South America. They took the body back and buried it secretly. So it was look, we've discovered it now. Yeah. But anyway, like I say, I don't know 100% if that story's true, but then that might have been put out. The story might have been put out as a further deception, but that is because there's so many layers. It is just all layers of deception, as we know from the TV news we read, the films we watch, the TV, to what we hear the politicians say, what we read in the newspapers or don't read. You just can't trust anything. It's one layer of deception after another. So just another film, I think, was Moonraker. That was, again, apparently the film was very different to the book. It came just after sort of Star Wars and that sort of science fiction boom. I remember at the time reading an article saying all these science fiction films are coming out. Even James Bond's gone into space. Dyer was talking in his book about maybe this is all references to a secret space program, because it's talking about the Bond villain here. He's got his own spaceships, and going into space, to the idea of an elite race going off world and creating a new colony on a different planet. So obviously you've got lots of talk about that, about Elon Musk talking about going to Mars, and so talking about speculating, well, that's putting out a narrative there following that. And then I thought it was interesting, again, I haven't actually seen this later Bond film, so this was not one from a Fleming book, but obviously following on the film series. But this is Quantum of Solace, so one of the Daniel Craig films. But he this character is Dominic Green, but he's apparently got, within the film, it's called the Green Movement. So he's one of these figures who's supposed to be respectable, and he demonizes government. He's supposed to be apostle of the Green Movement. And Dyer reminds us that this all came out of the Nazi eugenics, going back to the Nazis. And I know the Corbett report talked about how the idea of eugenics has now been transposed to the green agenda and the climate change hoax, or the man-made climate change hoax, at least, in order to put up, or another form of manipulation, another hoax, another full story that's used to manipulate people and get the agenda. And in this film, there's a scam to take advantage of undeveloped nations, to rip off all their resources. And as Dyer says, that's like the UN, the International Monetary Fund. It's all these official bodies. That's just what they're doing. And so we know China and Bill Gates, they're all buying up land. They're taking over resources of developing nations and Western nations. And apparently in the film, there's an opera, which has got
Giant Eye.
Yeah, Giant Eye. Yeah,
I remember that.
Oh right. Oh, I haven't. Oh, you've seen it, have you?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that film. So yeah, Giant Eye, all-seeing eye, and it's got a church in the middle of it. So again, it's this sort of this all-seeing technocratic panopticon where everything is visible to those with power. And this Mr. Green, the one in the picture, says, "We deal with right or left, with dictators or liberators." And that's what it comes down to, it seems to be. There's just like it's all for the agenda, and as I say, it doesn't matter. To me, it seems to me that there's maybe more connections with the top echelons, whether it's well, as we know, obviously after the Second World War, Operation Paperclip and all these prominent Nazi scientists and maybe others came over to the West and then were used for different things. So as Devlin said, I mean, as I said, I was inspired by his presentation at the old symposium, and he was talking about how he loved Bond when he was growing up, and it was one of those things when you've got to sort of, it punctures your the heroes. He says, for his part, Bond is portrayed as a noble and patriotic hero on our side, and always out to protect us from harm at the hands of dastardly villains. But if we're really honest with ourselves, James Bond is anything but a hero and is actually a deeply immoral person. He works for an organisation which in reality is involved in covering up institutionalised paedophilia. He is an order follower, killing others on the say-so of somebody deemed to be more important than him by virtue of their job title. And he carries out such executions without ever stopping to question the morality of the situation, or if one human being ever has the inherent right to kill another outside of self-defense. This is one of the worst places spiritually that an individual can be, in total denial of how natural law works, and creating chaos and violence in the world as a result of failing to take personal responsibility for one's actions and moral behaviour. Accepting the true nature of Bond has been another extremely bitter pill for me to swallow personally, as I loved the books and films as a kid. But letting go of one's heroes is part of the course, the process of genuine acceptance of truth. And it's similar as well. Crichton had similar words where he was saying that just he struggled to accept the moral, he said, didn't question the morality of what they do. It was just obeying orders. And was it right to get this Nazi Bormann out of Germany for basically financial reasons? I mean, people died in the operation, including Germans that were sort of freedom fighters within Germany that helped, and some of them died. But it was kept secret from them what the real mission was. So they didn't even know that they were actually helping to rescue a senior Nazi, someone who was, had helped destroy their country. So there's deception even within the people involved in the operation. So just to finish on the last James Bond film, No Time to Die, the release of which was apparently, we haven't got a thing of it,
but find it.
But it was notable because it was delayed, like a lot of other films, because of lockdowns. It didn't come out until about 2021, when it was supposed to have come out earlier than that. But the plot line was all about this virus, this killer virus that was perfected by this scientist, and I think he was stolen by the bad guys from like working for the British, as far as I remember rightly. But this expert had designed this virus that will only kill people of a certain genetic code, and that's something, as we know, that's been talked about. That, well, I'm sure it probably is already a thing, or again, it's all this biological warfare, and it's talking about a killer virus. And this, as I say, was delayed because of lockdown, and it's again perhaps a revelation of the method again, when they're just putting out their images, and it's like it seems almost unbelievable. It's like they're telling this stuff, people are going to watch it who are still believing the narratives of what they're being told in the news, and then they watch a James Bond film talking about a killer virus made by people with connection with secret services and being used to kill off certain people to match. And it's just like, why can't people see the truth? Why don't they learn?
Bloody hell. Well, Ben's woke. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Sorry. Sorry.
I just didn't know if I was doing any more.
No,
Well, Mark knocks it out of the ballpark again. Thumbs up for Mark.
Thanks.
Well done, Mark.
Sorry, I was a bit rambling there, people. I do apologise. Yeah.
Ben's back. Ben, you didn't win. DJ won by a bloody landslide. DJ got 9 bloody points.
Yeah, it was a record. Very fine DJ.
Should we get us?
Let's get us. Let's get us up.
Oh, here we go. Infinity. I quite like it when it does. Here we go. I'm not putting that light on. I can't be bothered with it.
No.
Everybody saying thank you. I did start taking notes listening about what people put, but then I got so interested in your talk, I stopped writing them. So, and yeah, well done, everybody. Some really interesting stuff going on in the comments box. We'll have a little read of that a bit later on.
Yeah, we will.
But yeah, well done, Mark. Well, very interesting.
Thank you for connecting in. Yeah, just these little themes keep coming through, don't they?
It's all connected. It is literally a web.
Yeah, it is. But it's everything is deception, but it's all. I'll leave it there.
All right, guys. Now we're gonna go. We usually have a little chat afterwards, but I've had a headache for 4 days, and our Mark has been literally typing for a whole week, non-stop. I chained him down to the.
They don't want to know about our private life.
No, neither do I. Oh, Alison's here. Hi, Alison.
Hello, Alison. Oh, thank you. It's very appreciate that. Yeah.
7D chess, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
really
guys, for listening.
To spend our Saturday evening or afternoon, wherever you are, with you. Always a pleasure. And maybe we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Happy Mother's Day, mothers, in England. I don't know if it's the same in foreign countries. Oh, that's tomorrow.
Tomorrow. It's almost there, isn't it?
Almost Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
My son's going to cook me a roast dinner because he's a love.
Yeah, he's a love. Yeah.
Right, we're gonna say bye.
Goodbye, all. Love
bye,
you all.
Everybody, love you.
Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye. Bye.